Good afternoon, YouTube, and welcome back to Fat Cat Collections. And today I want to share with you guys 4 different belt companies that manufacture belts in the holeless, lock slide design, if I'm referring to that correctly. And so, if you haven't checked out, or if you don't own a holeless belt or a slide belt, you're definitely doing yourself an injustice by not having one in your arsenal, or several in your arsenal, or your wardrobe arsenal. I've been wearing basic belts for pretty much my entire life until recently, probably within the last year or so, I discovered these kind of slide lock belts. And several different manufacturers make them. I'm not sure how many manufacturers make them across the board, but there are 4 major companies right now that are in competition with one another that make these belts. And so I was able to get my hands on all 4 of these particular belts, and I want to compare these side by side. Just give you guys an honest review of what I think, and give you guys some price points on what you get. They're all pretty similar. They all have many different colors, many different designs of belt buckles, but there are some differences. And I want to just go ahead and kind of point those out to you guys and give you guys my opinion on what I think is not only the best value, but the best quality of these 4 different choices. So the companies I have today, you probably have seen me review belts by both these companies. The company that we're going to talk about today, the companies are Mission Belts, Core Essentials Belts. We have Slide Belts by Brig, and of course we have another company called Mission Belts. And they all work off the same principle. And I'm just going to show you what that idea or what that design or that principle is. And what they have is they have a ratcheting track, okay, that basically goes down the center of the belt. Again, they are all very similar, but there are a few, I think, important differences. And how they work is basically the buckle is designed to work with this track. So you have a belt that has 0 holes, and when you slide the belt through the buckle, there's a spring-loaded tension or a spring-loaded bar in here. And what that does is put tension on one of basically the slide locks or one of the grooves. Each of these belts have a 1/4 inch of micro adjustment. And what's great about that, again, there are differences between each belt, but what's great about that is no matter which belt you decide to go with, you're going to get that 1/4 inch adjustment. And really, it's a no-brainer. For what you pay in a big box store to go in and buy a belt, you get at least $25 to $50 in most places. And I think if you were to go to a Kmart, a Walmart, some of those major, I guess, discount stores, if that's what they are. I know whenever I'm looking for something just for a great price, that's generally the places that I'll go. In my last job, I was supplied belts, of course, so I never had to worry about it. But they were hold belts. And those belts, not from my job, but basically from any of those big box stores, you're looking at about $25, $30. That's kind of the average. If you go to an actual men's store, you're going to pay more. And the sky is the limit when it comes to belts. There are so many different belts out there that are extremely expensive and ones that are, inexpensive. I'd say on the inexpensive side, you're probably looking at about $20 to $25. So these belts range in price from about $42 up to about $60, depending on which one you go with. You can save a little bit by getting their combo kits. Each company has a combo kit where you can pick out a couple different belt buckles and a couple different belts. It depends on the company. We're not going to really get into the options. I want you guys to check out the links in the description and make an educated purchase should you decide to get one. But point of the video is that these belts have really changed my wardrobe game. Not only are they nice looking and customizable so you can wear different, outfits of different colors, but they're just, the fit that you get with these belts is amazing. And they're great because, sometimes you'll eat a little bit too much. Sometimes your weight fluctuates. And most belts have about a 1-inch increment. Now, I went ahead and heated up a hot nail and added another hole in hold belts. But, it's just, you never get that fine-tuned, custom-tailored, as I like to refer to it, custom-tailored fit that you get with one of these slide lock, or I believe they're called slide lock belts. And if they're not, then I just coined that term or created that term. So let's kind of show you guys what you get. I don't want to get involved too much in the box because the presentation, I think, in a lot of products, although that's great that maybe a product gives you a nice box or whatever, I think it's kind of a distraction. The main purpose on when you buy a product is is the quality of the item. It's the features of the item. So I don't really want to get too involved in the boxes. You know, each of my videos, generally, when I do an unboxing, I'll show you guys the box. Again, if you've watched me before, I never spend a lot of time on unpackaging it because I do just feel like it's a waste of time. Everybody and their brother knows how to unwrap a package. Come on. You know, and, you know, that's really, I don't... For the most part, we're all adults here. And I think that, the unboxing part of it is not really what I focus on in this channel. It's about the quality. It's about the longevity. And with any product, you know, sometimes I've said in the past, sometimes I get products for free from companies, sponsorship deals to work with them. Sometimes companies hire me. Sometimes I just buy stuff and I share it with you guys. But one thing I always do, no matter what the agreement is with the company, no matter what I purchase, I always come back, you know, 6 months, a year later to let you guys know how it's holding up and is it something I would buy again? What are the pros and cons, if any, of the product? So, the first belt I will say that I've, when I discovered this brand, I really discovered these slide lock belts, these holeless belts, this system, off Instagram, really. And I saw a company called Anson Belt. So I reached out to them, and they were nice enough to send me several of their belts. Now, I've been wearing the Anson Belt for probably about, I'd say about 8-9 months now. And again, if you take anything from this video, getting a holeless belt is just, I mean, for what you pay a little more for them. Again, depending on, I mean, I'm comparing that to a very inexpensive big box store. In most cases, if you were to go to like a men's store, they're in line with the price points. And just trust me, once you wear one, you'll never go back to a belt with holes ever. I mean, they're that good. So let me just first show you, let's start off with what really started the ball rolling for me with these belts. And this is the one by Anson. And so all the belts I'm going to show you with the exception of one is a standard casual slash, and you know, and some of these companies will label them on their websites as casual or dress. The main difference between a casual belt or a dress belt is really in most cases the width, but I've worn belts that are 1.5 inches, which is what these belts I'm going to share with you, with the exception of, I believe, 2 here, 1 to 1.5 inches. You know, that you can wear them with jeans. You don't have to. I've always said you don't have to follow the rules. You wear what you want. We're all grown-ass men here. If you want to wear a 1-inch belt because it feels more comfortable, wear one. If you want to wear a 1.5-inch belt, I've worn 1.5-inch belts with dress slacks all day long, and they don't look bad. They look fine. No, they don't look any different, and I like the idea of wearing something that just stands out a little more. I like the fact that it fills the loops. And again, now if you have a pair of slacks that have, you know, 1-inch belt loop openings, obviously that's a different. You don't want to be stretching out your belt loop. So it really depends. I generally wear jeans 99% of the time. So for me, the 1.5 inch size is the best. Now there is one belt again in this lineup. These are all leather belts I'm going to show you. There is one belt that I do want to show you by Core Essentials. I reviewed the other day or a couple weeks ago. Again, depending on when I film these videos and when I make them live, it's maybe days, maybe weeks. But that's a tactical EDC belt, everyday carry belt. So if you're the type of person who wears or has a job or type of person who carries a firearm or carries any kind of tools on your belt, they're designed to be very rigid. So I'll show you that in a second. It's an amazing belt, but it's not really fair to compare that belt with some of these. However, you don't have to necessarily wear that belt if you're just carrying a firearm or, you know, a baton or mace or pepper spray, handcuffs, if you're not in law enforcement or security, construction. I've been wearing that belt with my jeans, and it's fantastic. It's rigid, it's tough, and so, you know, again, it's you wear what you want to wear. You don't have to just, you know, go with what a company tells you to do or what other people tell you to do. Okay, so let's start off with the Anson belt. So this is it right here. You can see that this one is the white version. I'm not going to get too involved in, you know, showing you guys. I've reviewed each one of these belts in detail on the channel. You can easily go to my playlist and just search. You know, there are differences as far as their branding, where they put it, what it says. What I want to really focus on is the quality of the build, and of course some of the subtle differences you're going to get, and of course the buckle, because that's a major component. As far as the track is concerned, I will say that on all three of these models, the track is almost identical. I don't see any difference with the track on either of these 4 brands. It's almost like they get the track from the exact same place, which again, I'm not sure on that, but the track is exactly the same as far as the quality and the construction. I haven't noticed any difference between the 4 different brands. One thing I have noticed between the 4 brands is on some of the belts, the track is longer. So you get more increments of adjustment. Now, even on the Anson Belt here, this is quite a bit of adjustment. And how these belts work, if you don't know how they work already, you choose your belt, whether it be leather, canvas, depending on whatever material they make, the color, you choose that, and then you choose the belt buckle of your choice. And each company makes something, they're all pretty similar, but they're all different styles, different designs. One thing I will tell you that, now I'm not a ripped, jacked bodybuilder. You know, I'm just a normal guy. And so, now I do, again, depending on my mood and the time of year, and, you know, I'm not super passionate about fitness, but I do, you know, I do like to stay around 165 pounds. My goal now is to get down to about 160 and to get back to the gym because, you know, everything you do that makes you, you know, you look better, I think, you feel better. It's just anything you do to be happier. So for me, I'm right now about 185 pounds. I used to, you know, believe it or not, I used to drink beer quite a bit. So I've developed a little bit of a beer belly. I've been doing that for a very, very long time and finally get to the point where I decided that that's it. I'm done with it. And so now that I'm done with that part of my life, I do want to get back into the fitness aspect and just get my weight down. A healthy weight for me is about 160, 165. I feel better in the way clothes fit me. I just feel better overall. I feel better the way my face looks. And so, you know, I need to join a gym, and the weather lately has been horrible. So I know this review is about belts. But my point is, with these kind of belts, you have all that adjustment. So with all that adjustment, if your weight fluctuates, like for me, I'm going to get down 20 pounds. So, or 20, 25 pounds. So naturally, when you get these belts, you cut them to fit. Some of these belts in different brands have size increments. I don't really believe in going with that. The Core Essentials belt does have on the inside increments, so if you know what size belt you wear, you can cut it. Guys, I always say, you know, like the old saying, measure twice, cut once. I think it's beneficial to, if you have a belt that fits you pretty good already, you know, it's, again, depending on your personal preference, you may want to cut this a little shorter to not have too much of the, we'll call the tail hanging. I like to have enough adjustment that if I fluctuate in weight, let's say I gain, you know, I'm 185, I want the belt to fit where I still have roughly about half the distance on the track to loosen it or tighten it. And again, if you really drop a lot of weight, if you buy this belt and, you know, 20 pounds isn't really, I mean, it's a lot, but it's not, you know, there are guys out there and folks out there who, I mean, drop a lot of weight. So nice thing about these belts is that compared to a, you know, a belt that's a standard hold belt, you know, you really can't adjust those down. You don't have that amount of adjustment at all, whether your weight fluctuates or not. And the nice thing about this, if you get this belt and you're, you know, you have a big waist, you're a big boy, and you lose a lot of weight, you can snip it and cut it down, and you don't have to throw it away and buy a new belt. So that's fantastic if you are on a weight loss journey. So you can adjust this depending on your lifestyle. Naturally, if you get down to a really small waist, you're still going to have that adjustment if you don't cut off too much. However, you know, you won't. There's a limit to. You won't be able to go back, of course. And that's kind of common sense. So as far as the tracks are concerned, with all 4 brands, if we compare the Anson Belt to the Core Essentials, one thing I like about the Core Essentials is they made the track even longer. So you have a lot more adjustment. You have probably about, I'd say, at least 2 inches more adjustment on the track. So you can really cinch this in tighter. If you don't want to cut it and you lose a lot of weight, you're able to cinch this in even more based on that fact. So you get 2 inches more adjustment to bring this down, okay? So that's pretty nice, I think, because you really, again, you get a lot of adjustment. I think for most people with any of these belts, is that a real a real decision to make the choice to buy the Core Essentials over the other brands? You know, most people are going to buy a belt and you're not going to adjust this. I mean, this has roughly, let me just grab a tape here. and we'll just put a tape measure on this thing here. I mean, the Core Essentials has about 10.5 inches of adjustment, whereas the Anson Belt has about 8 inches of adjustment. So that's a lot. I mean, most people waist sizes are not going to fluctuate that much where you need that much adjustment. But nice thing about it with this is that either way, it's built into design. I think it's nice. At least they put that into the belt rather than, I mean, more is better with adjustment, I always say. So it is a factor. So as far as the other belts are concerned, it looks like you have about 8 inches on the slide belts. The slide belts by Brig, their brand. And of course you have about 8 inches on the Mission belt. And I'm going to show you those belts in a second here as well. So as far as adjustment, the Core Essentials belt's going to give you more adjustability, okay, should you need to really cinch this down, or I don't know, I'm just trying to think outside the box here. If you had somebody who you were loaning the belt to is really skinny, I don't know, that, I mean, the odds of that happening, I'm just trying to you know, trying to give you guys my opinion on why they added 2 inches extra of adjustment. Either way, it's there. It's nice that if, you know, I don't know what kind of person would, I shouldn't say what kind of person, but I don't know what kind of lifestyle you would have in order for you to, most people don't anticipate gaining a lot of weight either. So regardless, if you were to have this belt and you have this thing cinched down, you know, quite a bit, let's say you're a really small guy and you've gained a lot of weight, or you anticipate gaining a lot of weight, the Core Essentials gives you 2 extra inches. Again, it doesn't have to be down, it can be up as well. This is the Anson Belt, by the way, but you have that much more adjustment. So again, when you're spending money on anything, an extra feature, more is better. So let's talk about the buckles. So again, buckles are all going to have their own design, and one thing I will say is that each belt buckle, each brand has a similar yet different method of adjusting or you know, taking the belt off or unbuckling the belt. On the Anson Belt, you have a small lever underneath the belt. So when you're wearing this, and I'm actually no, I'm not wearing one right now. When you're wearing this, you'll actually push this up. And what I found on all these belts, no matter which brand you go with, if you're going to take these belts off, you want to pull it a little tighter and then push the bar up. Because if you try to push the bar or the release lever up when it's engaged in the track, it's harder to disengage. It's almost like trying to pull a door open, pulling on the door while you turn the knob. You're creating friction on each one of these small grooves. So you want to just pull it a little bit, release a little bit of tension, then push the bar. On the Anson Belt, you do have kind of a sharp lever, and I do find that this kind of does dig into my finger, and I have to really kind of force it to get it to detach. If we go over to the Core Essentials belt, it's the same principle. Slide it locked. They have sort of more of a rounded edge. So this one here, although it's easier to grasp because on the, hopefully you can see this, on the Core Essentials, it overhangs the buckle more than the Anson Belt. So it is easier to grasp. It is smaller, so you don't get as much leverage. And it is rounded, so it doesn't hurt your finger as much, but you're losing the leverage. I'd say you're losing about half the leverage. And so on both these brands, it is a little bit difficult if you don't pull that release tension and push up. And even with either brand, there is still some tension you got to put on. Again, is it something that's difficult? No, but it's just worth mentioning. As far as the way that both buckles engage into the track, as far as the spring tension with these two brands, the Core Essentials definitely has more tension. Now, I'm not sure if because maybe I've worn the Anson Belt more, that's actually worn a little bit, but the Anson Belt, I'd probably say, has half the friction that the Core Essentials does. So this definitely takes a better bite on the track. As far as build quality on the buckles, between the Anson and the Core Essentials, their track line system, I would have to say they're very, very similar, okay? Again, as far as how they work off a spring, but the trackline belt, I would say, you know, they're just different. I really can't honestly tell you is one better than the other. They both attach the belt the same way. When you pop this lever down and you cut the belt to where you want it, you slide the belt buckle over and basically just cinch it. And I have another, let me just go ahead and show you guys here. I have another belt here. This one here is another Anson belt. And this one here, guys, say is a little bit loose, which I'm a little disappointed in. It's actually came off the belt before. So what they have here is there's just some teeth. Hopefully you can see this. Some teeth on the inside of the buckle, and you basically just slide the belt inside the hole or inside the groove, and you fold this down. One thing I will say that once you fold this down, these belts are designed for you to change up the belt buckle. I do notice that this belt has only been, I've never taken this buckle off, maybe, well, I shouldn't say never, I took it off once or twice. For the most part, it's brand new, but when you cinch this down to the belt, you are putting some holes in there. So when you go to put this back on each time, you're kind of wearing those holes a little bit more. So it definitely doesn't take the bite that it takes right when you get the belt. The first time you cinch this down, make sure you really push it in hard and cinch it. Because if I want to tighten this up a little bit more, it's not going to happen. Those holes are there permanently. The only way to create new holes is to cut the belt and move the holes. So again, you could do that with maybe an 1/8 inch increment, but again, it's not going to fall off or anything like that. But both belts work off the same principle or the same system, where you have those teeth. If we go over to the track line or excuse me, I'm getting confused here. The Core Essentials belt, I will say it takes a very strong bite on here. So I have a really hard time removing that from there. And I'm not going to take it off because I don't want to distort the leather, but it takes a very nice bite. One thing about these compared to the Anson belts, when I got these and I cut them and sized them, when I wanted to fold this down to take a bite on the belt, I actually got it close and I put it on the side of my counter and I pushed down. I had to put my body weight on it to really take a bite inside the leather. And again, I don't want to pop this off here, but the teeth on here compared to the Anson belt they're a little bit longer and they're wider. So do you have more, and I hope you can see that by the video, you see the teeth on the inside there? They're longer, so there's more of them and they take a better bite on the belt. So I think that's another advantage to going with the Core Essentials. Again, Core Essentials does put the measurement on there, which I don't think any of these other brands do. Let's take a look here. Nope, the Mission does not, and the slide belts does. Again, that's by Brig. They do, but honestly, I think on either brand, it's kind of pointless because, don't depend on this. Even though that is a true measurement, I like to just find a belt that's already fit me and cut it accordingly and double check. Again, just personal preference. So if we compare, now we just talked about the Anson, of course, and the Core Essentials. If we compare, let's just say the Core Essentials to, I will say the slide belts by Brig and the Mission belts. If we compare these two belts are 1-inch size belts, so they're definitely not quite as wide. And I do believe that both these companies make a 1.5-inch belt. These are the ones I have to share with you guys, but the design is exactly the same as far as how they work. If we go ahead and look at both these belts, both these two brands have, again, larger grooves as far as the teeth that sink into the belt itself, that hold the belt buckle to the belt, as opposed to the Anson. The Anson belt has the smallest. Again, I haven't had an Anson belt fall off, but all three of these other brands, the teeth are, I'd say, about twice as large as the Anson belt. So it really takes a nice bite. The other thing that's nice about that is because it's a wider bite on all three of these other brands, there's less shift in the belt. If you try to hold this down by the center, you might get some movement side to side. I do notice on the Anson belt there is a little bit of wiggle. Not much, but a little bit. And that's mainly because that bite is more centered as opposed to these other brands, which they really spread out the teeth. And I'd say with all three of these brands, the teeth placement and spacing is almost the same, and you can definitely feel there is a better bite. It looks like the teeth are just larger, and they really kind of sink into the belt a little bit better. As far as how these belts work, I would say that the Mission belt is closer to the Anson belt as far as their design of the buckle. You can see side by side the white ones, the Anson belt. They're very, very similar, almost identical. It almost looks like they use almost, well, I mean, they're very similar. There's a slight difference, but both these two belts, as far as the tension required to press the spring-loaded, I guess, tension groove, very similar. So they're not quite as stiff as the Core Essential. So not quite, again, none of these are going to fall off, but it is something to be noted. The Core Essential just feels like it's a little bit, where'd it go? I got belts all over the place here. The Core Essentials just feels like it's got a better bite, a little bit more tension, better bite on the micro adjusting track. So as far as the belt buckles are concerned, I mean, they're all pretty nice. I can't really say that any of these brands, if we compare, again, well, not if we are, comparing all four, I can't really say that any of these are nicer than the other. I feel like they're all of nice quality. They're all very similar. But the Core Essentials belt definitely, I would say, yeah, I really can't say that it's that I think it's any better quality than any of the other belts, other than the fact that I like the way that they've really that tension pin in there, or that tension spring, is a little bit harder to push. And I will say that on the Mission belts, they kind of have a larger sort of groove. There's sort of a groove in the tension button. But, you know, those grooves on the outside, I'm not sure if that's what they are. You don't really push it like that. You're not gripping on the side. You're gripping underneath to push this. And I'll say that this is kind of a sharp edge as well. So, you know, I can't really say that either of these belts, I'd say they're all about the same as far as unbuckling them or pressing that tension. Again, on each brand, you'll want to cinch it a little bit tighter and then press the button to release the tension. It'll be a lot easier to press. Because there are times where I've tried to remove, like when I'm wearing the Anson belt, and I have to push it pretty hard if I don't just release the tension a little bit by cinching it in. The only different belt here, the slide belts, again by Brig, they use a different system. They don't have a tension spring that pushes down on the bar. The bar on this, it's a lot different than the other ones. The bar on this particular belt is all the way back. So the part that actually takes a bite on this groove right there, again, we take a look at the groove again. See that track? It's not towards the front of the belt buckle like the other three brands. It's towards the back of the buckle. And so when you go ahead and put this on, again, this one isn't sized, but you'll just slide it through like so. And so when you go to take this off, you're just grabbing the, hopefully you guys can see that here, adjust the camera a little bit here. So as you go to take this off, you're actually grabbing the end of the buckle and pulling up. And so I do think that this is an interesting design compared to the other ones. Whoops, a little bit too large here. Because you have that leverage. So I think as far as all three brands, this one here is probably the easiest to, I guess, unlock, because you can grab it from the sides, you can grab it from the front, and when you pull it up, you're releasing tension. So you have quite a bit of leverage on this particular buckle to disengage, I guess, the groove that would mount to the inside of the track. So I do like the design in this one here as far as, again, ease of removal. That's pretty innovative compared to the other brands. Again, the other brands, none of these are hard to remove. This isn't some difficult process that's going to disrupt your life, but this one is the easiest if we're being honest, if we compare all four brands. So now let's talk about the actual quality of the belt itself. So there is a major difference if we compare the Core Essentials brand with the other three brands. Now, all three of these are made of genuine leather, of course. And the differences here, and I'm not really sure, you know, I only have one slide belt, one of each of these belts to compare it to. Well, I have a couple of the cores, and I have a couple of the Anson belts. So I will show you that one thing about the Anson Belt is that if we look at this leather, okay, and we bend it the opposite way from where I've been wearing it, you can see that that top layer is actually buckling a little bit. You can see it wrinkling. And so I'm not really sure what they apply to make this white. Again, I'm not, you know, I don't know what you call a person who works on leather. I'm just a guy who wears this stuff and reviews it with you guys. And so one thing I have noticed with the Anson Belt is you can see that it's already ripping. And so naturally, is that going to cause the belt to fail? No, but it is going to cause the belt to look a little shoddy. And the reason for this is because when you put this belt together, the belt buckle is actually wearing or rubbing on the inside of that layer of leather. And so rather than the leather just, you know, becoming kind of worn, it's actually starting to rip. You can also see that on here, well, here I'll show you, on the Anson Belt, the two layers that are actually stitched together are starting to separate a little bit from that white, underneath that white coating. So again, this belt has not been worn all that much. 8 months really isn't a lot of time, but you can also see that the layer of leather, that coating, is actually wearing off. So I'm not sure if there is some sort of coating. I know this is kind of similar to a video I just did. My parents have a Ashley Furniture genuine leather sofa love seat, and the outer layer is actually peeled and blistered completely off the leather. So again, if you guys have any more information, and I could look it up, you know, whatnot, but I'm sure a lot of you guys will let me know. You know, the process with leather, if that's just something they do to give it a different color, or, you know, I guess what's it called? I mean, obviously when it comes to leather, there's not like leather's leather, so I don't really know how they get the different color. I don't know if it's part tanning. Maybe I'm using that word incorrectly, but I know that this I would think is just definitely wearing more than I thought it would. When I compare belts that I have, they're just, you know, work belts are just genuine leather that are black, don't seem to have that blistering problem or wear. So that's something to be noted, at least with the Anson belts. When we compare the Core Essentials, again, I haven't had this belt that long to know whether this is going to hold up better or not. Time will tell. I will re-review at a later date. But as far as right now, I mean, this is perfect. Again, this is brand new, only worn a couple times. So you have to take that into consideration. One obvious thing I do notice about the Core belts compared to the Anson belts is the fact that they use double stitching. So the two layers, whether it be your outer layer, your inner layer, are actually double stitched around the entire edge of the belt. So, I mean, twice the stitching, I would say twice the durability. Again, the Anson belt is only stitched once. Is one going to unravel quicker than the other? Is it going to fail? I mean, I can't really, you know, lie to you and say, oh yeah, absolutely. But I do like the fact they double stitched it. Both belts have the track stitched in with one single stitch. That stitch goes all the way around the track. So I don't foresee the track coming out. That does look pretty durable on both brands. If we compare that to, which one's this one again? The slide belts. The slide belt is actually similar to, I would say, like my work belt. It is a grained leather. I don't know if because it's black that there's any kind of coating. It's definitely thicker than the other brand, so you have a nice thick belt. But it is single stitched, and the track is single stitched as well. As far as what do I think cosmetically when I just look at the belt, I definitely like the appearance of the Anson belt and the Core Essentials belt more than the slide belt. To me, this just looks like a very basic, cheap belt. Now, that may be because it's just a plain black belt. We're comparing a cool-looking white belt versus a gray belt. It doesn't really seem anything over the top. I mean, it's a very cheap, basic belt. Doesn't mean it's not going to, hold up. It doesn't mean it's not built for a purpose, but there's really nothing to write home about this. This looks like every other belt you're going to see if you walk into a big box store, with the exception of having that track, that slide lock, which is really why you're buying these belts. But if you're going to spend the money on a belt, why not have it be, have a little bit of pizzazz, be fashionable as well. So if we go over to the other brand here, there it is. Again, still a 1-inch belt. This is more. This is similar, I would say, to the Core Essentials belt. Extremely similar. It's almost like a baby brother. It's just not quite as wide. It's 1 inch versus the 1.5 inch, and it is a top grain leather as well. So not really too much of a difference. This is double stitched as well. So this is comparable, I think, in build quality to the Core Essentials belt. But I definitely like the Core Essentials belt, their lever, the way that this thing, I guess, it's just the belt buckle on this does look like it's a little bit nicer on the Core. Again, they are very, very similar, but when you kind of press the button, the release lever on the buckle on the Core Essentials, it just feels like it's a little bit better made. It feels a little more solid, and again, more spring tension. So that's really about it. I mean, if you want to compare cosmetics, I mean, that's really very subjective. That's really up to the person who's going to be buying this and wearing this. Again, a couple close-up shots here of the Core Essentials. And these are available in all kinds of different colors, of course, white, brown, cognac. I mean, all these belts come in different colors. Comparing, again, here's another close-up of the Mission belt. And we're going to go over to the slide lock here, or slide belts, excuse me. And, of course, the Anson Belt. So, I did want to show you guys also, before we, I guess, conclude the video, I wanted to also show you and share with you guys just a little bit more information, and then also show you guys the EDC belt by Core Essentials, because there's a real difference between the EDC belt and all these other belts, or all, including the Core Essentials just standard casual belt, as far as the durability and the build. Okay, and I want to talk about a few other points here, so bear with me. So let me just go down to just a little bit of information I want to share with you guys. And you guys know that every review I do is honest up front. You know, these are everyday guy reviews, as if we're just sitting here relaxing, talking, and me sharing my opinion of the quality of these belts and what I think is, I think, a better bang for your buck. And let me just find it here. I don't know what it is about my email, but it's always kind of a pain to find what I'm looking for. All right, so while I'm looking for this here, one thing I want you guys to be aware of when you buy, and I kind of touched on it a little bit when I was talking to you guys earlier about weight loss and body weight, and as far as the belt buckle's concerned, the one thing I do notice on all these belts, when you get a belt buckle that's large, now when I get down to about 160, 165 pounds, I'll have a little bit less of a belly. And you know, when I'm sitting, naturally my belly kind of hangs a little bit over my waistline, right? And so if you're wearing and I don't like to wear big baggy pants, I tend to wear fitted jeans, you know, as fitted as, you know, again, not skin tight, but more fitted jeans. And every brand's different, but like right now I'm not wearing a belt because I'm sitting here. And what I do notice that I do with belt buckles like this that are square, okay, is that I do tend to take them off when I'm sitting. So each of these brands, I want you guys to think based on your build, based on, you know, what you're going for here. And let's face it, I mean, I think that whether you're skinny, tall, you know, fat, overweight, whatever your body type is, I mean, one thing we're all looking for with I mean, clothing, I think, is a little bit of style. I mean, some are a little more than others. So I will actually go more towards style, and my scale kind of leans more towards style than comfort. I'd rather be a little uncomfortable and still feel like I'm stylish and feel good about what I'm wearing. Not everybody's like that. Some people are more of a sweats and t-shirt kind of guy. Whatever it is, I think that no matter what kind of belt you wear, you do want it to be comfortable and functional. Okay, and for those of you who care about the style and the looks, I guess it's a third point. And we'll notice, I will say that any of these belts, because the belt buckle on these is larger and not like a rounded traditional buckle, this point, because of my body and the way that my stomach does kind of cinch up and kind of hang a little bit over my waist, and if you're a guy with a little bit extra cushion there, you're gonna have the same problem. Now my dad, same thing. He doesn't seem to really bother him. So everybody's body's a little different. For me, my stomach kind of the belt buckle digs into my stomach a little bit on the corner, and I've even worn it off to the side sometimes, just to help alleviate that. Is it something that is super uncomfortable where I don't want to wear the belt? Absolutely not with any of these brands, but it is something if I know I'm just going to be sitting and lounging, I generally will take my belt off. So just something to think about, completely outside the whole discussion of quality and price points, which we're going to discuss in a second here as well. If you're looking for something more comfortable, try to go with one of the belt buckles that's a little more rounded. A lot of the square styles that they have with all these brands, honestly, no matter which brand you decide to go with, most of these things have squared edges. Now there are a few, if we're talking about Core Essentials here first. The Core Essentials belt, and I'm going to show you one belt in a second here. Yeah, all the Core Essential belts have a very distinct square edge. The Mission belts, they're all square as well. And they have actually, I will say Mission Belt has a hot pink belt. So if you're a guy looking for a little flashy pink, man, they got some interesting colors here. That's for sure. Pink, yellow, that's pretty cool. If we're looking at the slide belts by Brig, again, they have one that has slightly rounded edges, but it's still a square belt. So just something to think about. The belt I am going to show you here, the other belt, the EDC belt by Core. The reason I chose this is because of the belt buckle. There was different options, but one thing I like about this, and check this out, super tactical. Same design as the other Core belt, with the addition of a couple Allen screws to really take a bite on this belt. What I like about this buckle is the fact that when I wear this doesn't dig in as much because they've tapered down the edges. So I think my advice to each of these companies is to maybe make a belt buckle that is more like this. I'm not saying across the board because everybody's body's different, but I think that having the option to have a belt that definitely tapers down like this, this is definitely noticeable to me when I'm wearing this one. I don't get as much digging. And of course, they've really rounded the other edge as well. So the only remaining part of this that might irritate your stomach a little bit is actually well rounded. So this one is, of all these belts, the most comfortable buckle. As far as this belt right here, this belt is amazingly durable. This belt will hold up to 18 pounds, 800 pounds. Super tough belt. There is no give in this belt. Everything on this is double stitched. You have the genuine leather on the inside of the belt, and then it's awesome web material on the outside. This is designed for the guy who, and again, you don't have to wear this. If you only wear these belts just for your jeans or for the purpose of holding up your pants, you can still wear a tactical EDC belt. And when I say EDC, it's everyday carry. This is mainly designed for guys who are going to be carrying a firearm, any kind of tools or gear. If you're in loss prevention, law enforcement, this remains nice and rigid because there's an inner core in this that keeps it that way. This belt, if you were to lay it on the floor and step on it, it's not going to bend. It's super rigid. And the idea in that is when you wear this, it holds its form, it holds its shape, and as you're drawing your weapon, God forbid you should have to draw your weapon or any of your tools, the belt doesn't flop and twist. It stays rigid just like your holster does. And you pull that out and you're ready to deal with whatever you may have to deal with. So that's what this belt is mainly designed for, but I've been wearing this with jeans for the last I'd say a week or so, and it's fantastic. Again, same principle as far as how you detach or how you loosen the belt, just by pulling up the arm here. And again, what's great about it is not only do you have the teeth, but you have two set pins or Allen screws on here that take a really strong bite. So this thing isn't going to come loose. When you screw this down, lock it down, this thing is, it's intact. There's no way this thing's going to pop off on you. It is a super, super durable belt. So let's talk about price points now. And this is a huge part of, you know, if you're going to make a purchase for any of these belts. What do they cost? So the Core Essentials belt on average is about $49, okay? And if you were to go with the EDC belt, you're looking at, where is it? There it is. $49 as well. I saw one price here. There is one. They do range. The Core Essentials range from $49 to $59. Let me just make sure I'm under the right topic here. Yeah, so okay, so if you want this belt, the EDC belt, you can still get the classic belt, which looks like the EDC belt, which has sort of the canvas or that webbing material. If you get it with the EDC or the everyday carrier, that rigid core, you're paying $60 for the belt. But I mean, if you were to look at what actual duty belts cost, you know, and especially if you're in law enforcement or in a job where you depend on your tools, your weapons, you don't want you want to make sure that you're wearing something that's going to be extremely durable, extremely rigid, and built, purpose-driven, purpose-built. So you pay a little more from $60, but most of the belts are $49.99. Mission belts, a little bit cheaper, $34. Slide belts, $60, and Anson Belt's $49. So they're all somewhat comparable in price, but in my opinion, you're getting most bang for your buck with the Core Essentials belt as compared to these other belts. I mean, they're all going to get used, they're all going to be worn, but I definitely like what Core is doing with their belts. Belt size on the Core belts are 1 3/8. I misspoke. I thought it was 1.5, but it's pretty close. 1 3/8 inches wide. The Mission belts are 1 1/8. Slide belts 1 1/8, and the Anson belts 1 1/4. The buckle construction, solid stainless steel and alloy. The other 3 belts are alloy. So a little bit different. Core belts are actually putting a little bit, and again, this is great that this information is available. I will put a link in the description for this information. I'll link it to my website with this. It's a side-by-side comparison of each one of these belts. The nice thing about that is that you're getting something with a little bit better build quality for the same price, which is what I touched on when I mentioned the double stitching. So the buckle style, you have 16 unique solid and open face buckle designs with various finishes. Mission belts you don't have. Mission belt to slide belts, you only have 2 different options. And this also says that the Anson belt only has 2 different face designs, which isn't really completely... Well, let me just double check that, because I'm pretty sure Anson has more styles. All right, so they sort of have a square and a carved out. Here, I'll show you guys. They have sort of a square buckle, which there are different finishes you can get, different textures, and then you have what I consider like a C shape, kind of U shape, carved out design. So you have more options if you're looking to accessorize and have different, I guess different buckles that you can use with these. Again, that's, it's worth mentioning, but it's very subjective. Some of you, if you like a buckle, you like the way it looks, it doesn't really matter if you have 16 different options. It really matters if you're getting something that you like. But if you are, again, a person who likes to have a nice arsenal of belts in your wardrobe and several different varieties, you're going to get a lot more with Core Essentials. The buckle mechanism, as far as all 4 belts, on the Core Essentials belt, it's a spring-loaded buckle, lasts longer, lock solid, designed and patented by Core Essentials of California. The Mission belt is a magnetic Chinese design, has a tendency to stick when attempting to release. Video on their site addresses the issue. Slide belt, simple pull lever design, originally designed in Asia. And Anson belt, a magnetic mechanism design in Asia, will stick under pressure. So again, I have noticed the sticking, but I don't think, honestly, in my opinion, that has anything to do with any kind of magnetic design. When I feel the idea in the magnetic design here, I'll show you guys, is that this is a magnet on here. So when you actually press the lever out, okay, it's kind of free floating. So the only thing that brings that tab back into the belt buckle itself is the magnet. However, when you're wearing this belt, the magnet isn't, in my opinion, really functional, because what's really holding this belt on Let me just double check that here. All right, so I see what they're saying. So basically, the magnet pulls the. It's almost like a teeter-totter. The magnet on this side pulls the metal down and causes the tab to engage inside the groove. You know, I personally don't find that it sticks due to that. I find the reason that it sticks when you... I think what they're talking about is any kind of sticking where it's hard to unlatch. I think that really comes down to the tension, I guess, part of the belt engaging inside the plastic groove. And that's why I said when you pull it a little bit and then press the button, there is no sticking whatsoever. So I think that's going to be something on each one of these belts. But as far as the mechanism, I will say again, like I mentioned earlier in the video, that the Core Essentials belt definitely takes a better bite due to the fact that it is a spring and not just a magnet pulling tension on a kind of a piece of metal that's on a teeter-totter. So as far as belt size, one size fits up to 44, extra size up to 54. The other brands up to 42, 48, 50, 55. I'm not going to go into each one of those. Again, that's only going to be an issue, and I don't really even see it being an issue. They're all adjustable belts, so it's kind of irrelevant whether or not one fits up to, I mean, they all fit up to, I mean, Core Essentials up to 54. Who's this here? Mission up to 56. Slide belts up to 55, and Anson up to 50. So if you have a larger waist than a 50, then obviously you're not going to want to go with the Core or the Anson belt because it's not going to fit you. As far as return policy, 30 days on Core, 30 days on Mission belts. Slide belts is 45, and Anson does give you a lifetime warranty or guarantee on the buckle function. And there's a little bit more information as far as, you know, the background, as far as how they launch. It's whether they were launched on Kickstarter or Shark Tank. All that's really irrelevant. It's not even worth mentioning because who really cares how these brands came to be? What matters is what you're getting for your money. And then finally, it says here just a little bit of information as far as distinguishing facts. That it's the Core Essentials is more adjustable, 30% longer track, 16 open-face buckle designs, and a patented buckle mechanism from their company. And the other ones mentioned the other information mentioned Shark Tank, and one of these things here, it mentions a Mission belt as far as being linked to something that I guess that Core Essentials doesn't agree with as far as design. I'm not going to mention that because that is irrelevant. Ultimately, what matters is whether or not you guys like the cosmetically design of the buckles. I think each brand, all four brands, I think all buckles look nice. I don't think one looks crummier than the other or better than the other. I think they're all well made. Anson's going to integrate a little stainless steel in there. I'm not sure, or not Anson. Sorry, Core Essentials going to integrate a little more stainless steel in there, or stainless steel in there. Again, I don't think that's really that's really a selling feature for me personally. I think what is a real selling feature on why you should choose one of these belts or the other, I think the Core Essentials belt, I'm a guy that really likes variety. So if I was going to make a purchase for one of these belts, based on the belts that I have, the ones that I've worn, I think that the Core Essentials belt just gives you a little bit more bang for the buck. I think you have more options as far as the belt buckle design. I think that you have especially with the EDC tactical belt, you have an extremely high quality, extremely durable belt as compared to all the belts in all four brands. It really is the most durable belt, and for the price point, only $10 more than, again, even their own Core Essentials belt. It really comes down to whether you want more of function, more durability, or if you want something that also not only looks a little more casual. If you're wearing a shirt tucked in, some nice dress slacks, you're probably not going to want to wear a canvas tactical belt. It's more of something that you're going to be wearing with jeans or a uniform. Again, I wear jeans. I wear my shirts untucked. But if I was going to wear a shirt tucked into my jeans or a shirt tucked into some dress slacks, I wouldn't wear the webbed belt. It's too tactical to wear with something that's a little more, I guess, formal. With jeans, shirt out, nobody sees it. It's all about the function at that point. So it doesn't really matter at that point what it looks like. So again, I think all four of these brands are nice. I do think that you get more bang for your buck with Core Essentials. I think that I like the fact that they put a little bit more quality into the buckle, into the design, again, into the options that you can get. I think it's just more of a well thought out brand. And I think that the having the double stitching, and we're going to find out, and I agreed. And again, this is a sponsored video. Core Essentials was nice enough to sponsor the video on the channel. They sponsored a few other videos by sending me a product. But ultimately, at the end of the day, my opinion is my opinion. This is an honest review of what I think. So again, Anson Belt sent me their belts as well. Core Essentials sent me the other brands, the Mission and the I keep forgetting the brand, Mission belts and the Slide belt. I'm terrible. I really am. These slide belts, I got so much going on. It's just like, anyway, like I said, it's a real video, and I'm giving you guys my honest opinion on what I think. Again, even though all these brands were sent to me as a sponsorship arrangement, they were free for me to wear and enjoy. Again, and I agree to do a video with, whenever a company reaches out to me and says, hey, we want to work with you, or I reach out to them and we collaborate. Ultimately, at the end of the day, it's my opinion. I'm honest with what I think, and I'm not paid for my opinion, or I'm not paid for a result. I'm paid for my opinion. And so I do think that if I was going to make a purchase for one of these belts, I would go with Core Essentials, because not only again, if you buy a belt and you have a specific measurement, it's sort of you're stuck with. So if you buy these other brands, and you said, hey, I want to get another buckle, something a little bit different, maybe gold or black or something, whatever you decide, you have to buy a whole new belt. Whereas you have a lot of options to accessorize with Core Essentials. And again, the price is in line. You're getting a better build quality, that double stitching. But one thing I do want to come back, and again, when I will always come back a year later, 6 months later, let you guys know how these are holding up. Because the initial review, it's very easy for me to sit here and tell you guys what I think, my opinion, just based on what I can see. But the real test is going to be how they wear and how they hold up. And as I showed you with the Anson Belt, we got some wear already. We're going to find out if these other brands do that. So stay tuned. I'll come back 6 months later and do another review on these belts and let you guys know if I've had any kind of issues whatsoever. But if you're in the market right now to make a choice on a belt and make a decision and say, oh, which one am I going to buy? If one was half the price of the other, I'd say, okay, well, take the risk, buy the other belt. You can get two for the price of one, but the price is in line. You're getting a better build just based on what I can see, what I can feel right now. You're getting a better build with the Core Essentials belt. You're getting more options. I mean, colors, you got a whole slew of colors you can choose from, and I think that it's the better belt as of right now. So thanks guys for watching. That was an extremely long video. I'm gonna have to edit this together. I didn't think it would take me that long, but there was a lot of points to talk about and a lot of things to show you and discuss. I want to thank Core Essentials for their generosity and come up with this idea to not only sponsor the video, but also send these belts to review and share. I'm probably gonna put up another video maybe in another week, maybe a week after I've worn these, maybe a couple weeks, we'll see. I don't want to wait 6 months. Worst case scenario, you'll see me 6 months later talking about these belts, but I am curious to see how they're gonna hold up. But anyways, guys, I mean, regardless of what happens with the build quality of any of these belts, if you haven't picked up a grooved holeless belt, pick one up. I'm telling you right now, you'll be sold on them, and you won't go back to wearing a holed belt. I mean, for the most simple part of just being able to wear a belt that gives you a custom tailored fit with all four of these brands, and then be able to go out, eat a huge meal, and be like, oh, and then be able to let a little out. I mean, they're super comfortable. So thanks again for watching, guys. If you like the content, subscribe to the channel. And again, thank you, Core, for your generosity. I love these belts. And if you guys have any questions whatsoever, don't hesitate to ask. I'm always here to help you guys. Email address is in the description. Links for these are in the description. If you make a purchase, let me know. I'd love to hear about it. So thanks, guys. Have a great day, and take care.